this meeting of the Three Rivers Local School District Board of Education on Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We are in the Truck Media Center. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Hughes? Dr. Stafford?
Here.
All right, if I could get a motion to approve of and dispense with the reading of the minutes. We have an updated or revised board minutes for the August 12th, 2025 meeting and then the September 9th, 2025 regular board.
For that, I just want to say that was my typo on the August 12th meeting, that when we were going through the athletic game workers, I had highlighted someone and they didn't make it into the original minutes, even though I had highlighted them from what we had agreed on, because we agreed that everybody was going to get one just to keep things moving, and then we were going to come back after discussing it. So that was totally on me. So that's why we're revising the minutes, and it was highlighted in yellow.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the meetings August 12th and September 9th.
I'll second.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Stafford?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes. Okay, that takes us to our committee reports. And we want to stay in this order, the academic curriculum of Mr. McDonald and Dr. Stafford.
We had our meeting on September 26th. We talked about a whole host of things. It was a really great meeting. We talked about DIBELS data that we received. Kirsty shared the DIBELS results. I do think that it was mostly positive, but there were definitely areas where we're going to target for improvement in future years, and it's really great that the results were so clear to provide us a path forward and where we need to go. We discussed curriculum being used by the local daycares, and Kirsty wants a stronger focus on the science of reading, and we thought about maybe there's a way to do some outreach to try to help our kids be more prepared. Something that jumped out to me in our meeting was how few of our kids are in our preschool, so that when they get into our kindergarten, we're getting kids that mostly are coming from other places. So there might be an opportunity there to work with others that we're getting our kids from to help them do better, and then that might in turn help us do better. Early literacy, it was one of our lower areas. We only have 3 stars in that area, and so we're talking about an improved lit component document to show anticipated growth for next year and how we're going to get there. High time has been reconfigured to better support student need. We're making sure they're not missing out on any tier 1 material when they get taken out of the classroom, and that's a really important component to making sure if you don't have tier 1, then obviously moving forward is going to be counterproductive to take them out of that. District data meeting with the district leadership team. Each grade level has data analysis so that we're focused on actual data, and these are broken into strengths and things that we wonder about for improvements. We talk about possible root causes, and this is how we anticipate finding improvements through kind of a Socratic method with our team.
As a follow-up to that, we have DLT today because we have it every quarter. So we had one in August and we have one today. And so we did our second step of that data worksheet where our fall DIBELS and our fall benchmarks and our fall map. The teachers look today because we looked at the spring and August. So we're going to, every quarter, we'll look at the most recent data. Report card's important, but it's kind of old data by now.
Right.
You know, this was from last spring. So it's like looking at the new stuff and comparing it and making sure we're still getting that growth.
And that leads us into the discussion of the report card. We had a really good report card. 4.5 stars. For me, one of the things that jumped out that we discussed, the overall component, you get a score. Ours was 91 point something. Write it down here somewhere. 91.7, and that is a record for the modern era since we've been doing it this way. Going back, last year was an 89.6, so 91.7 is significant improvement. And when we shared our videos, one of the things that I mentioned in the video that I think is really important to me is when you look at each category, the number of students that are limited, basic, the ones that are gifted, the advanced and advanced plus, all of those categories, the ones that you want to shrink, shrank, and the ones you want to get bigger, got bigger. So the growth was across the board. And I think that's really important because we're not just focusing on the near proficient kids. It shows that there's progress being made with the limited and the gifted and the whole span. And I think that's truly the definition of success for any district. And we saw that last year. So that was a really great thing in my opinion. We talked a little bit about some bills in Congress. And then we talked about our PD day that we just had. And then we set our next meeting for October 20th at 1 p.m. in somewhere around Lisa's office or in the boardroom. I think that was about it.
Any questions? Right, I'll take the Building and Finance Committee with myself and Mrs. Miller. We actually were scheduled to meet on October 2nd, but that was the evening of Dev's visitation, so just made the decision to go ahead and cancel that, and our next meeting will be on November 6th, I think is the Thursday, so that is the plan. We haven't met for a couple months, but I talked with Terry, and the reality is we're just getting tonight for all of us to review the 3-year forecast. Previously, the hardest previous was the 5-year forecast, right? But and that'll give us a chance to review and go over it, and then we'll have some good information for the Finance Committee here in a couple of weeks. So nothing else to report on that right now. And so next is Community Liaison, and that would be Mrs. Hughes. I did see she had forwarded a document, but I did not get a chance to look at that. I would just say that it was a pretty busy week or two here building up, with homecoming. I think it was fair to say it was a pretty successful 3 nights, but the parade had a good crowd. I think it's probably the biggest crowd I've seen for a couple of years. And then certainly Friday night with the football game, with the fireworks and the drone show, that was pretty cool. I think drones are going to start replacing fireworks now because I think they're kind of more entertaining. There's like a lot more you can do with them. But yeah, that was neat. It was a really good crowd. Successful. It was very successful attendance, I think, in terms of that. So I do.
It got cold. It was cold.
It did. I concur. It was a little chilly.
But it was
So this is the Acclaim Foundation meeting minutes. Christina had sent these to us. So attendance was Kevin Sucher, Joe Rivers, Amber Moore, Kelly Burchin, Xana Ferry, Sue Deemer, Emily Hannon, Holly Sims, Robin Piccioni, Laura Reinhardt, and Christina Hughes. Sounds like the crew. That's our folks. With band, competition number 16 bands. Let me see here. Make sure I'm going to say things that make sense. They're looking for volunteering for Acclaim. Coverage for concessions. Sounds like expenses were higher this year with the competition. Judges' fees, hotel room, things like that. And this is already, we've already done our competition. Right? This meeting was before that, so it's good to see here. Middle school fitness is great. We'll have a concert at the end of the quarter. We're past that, just barely. And then the first high school concert was early in October. They've been at high school choir's been invited to sing at Miami, October 24th. And so that will be a neat opportunity. See here, we should be, I know one of the things I had talked with you, Mark, about the auditorium lighting, I need to get with you, we need to get a plan put together for what our plan will be there. The claim is asking for help on the upgrades. This is the house lighting for the auditorium, to get those changed over to LED, just because the maintenance of the existing fixtures is getting pretty cost prohibitive. And depending on the fixture, it might require moving seats out. They all require a pretty big lift. So the idea is being not just new lights, but the less maintenance, some energy savings as well. Art, the adult clay night is October 22nd. So I think that was it's been in our flyers. I know it's been in the updates and the emails and stuff that I've received through Final Forms and through the jacket. Weekly jacket updates. So anyone that's interested in the district, you can come make a clay creation. I'm guessing there'll be no judging of anybody's artistic talent. We start voting up, but it is $20, I think, is the registration fee, and we've got room for up to 40 or 50 people. So please look into that. See here. There's a tile mural that will be 100th years using ceramic tiles. Each of the high school teachers are creating a tile. So they're working on that. That will be outside of Colleen's classroom. So that's another thing I think we're doing just for the centennial celebration. I did talk to a few people Friday night about, it's like, really we're kind of starting the beginning of the 100 year. I mean, it's this year's graduating class will be the 100th graduating class, but technically, I figure it's like a good birthday party, you should stretch it as long as you can. So I feel like we still have about 12 or 14 months we can continue to celebrate. I'm sure you all want to keep doing things, keep working on it. So. And let me see here, drama. Looks like there's going to be a buddy car fundraiser and sponsored letters to go out for the Hall of Fame. So I'm sure I missed a few things in here, but we could definitely get a better update from Kristen too. So thank you for that. Is there any questions or anything anybody wanted to add?
Trunk or treat is Sunday.
That's this Sunday? Okay. Trunk or treat, that's a big one. That will definitely bring some folks out. If there's no other committee report or questions, then I think that will take us to our presentations. We'll start with Mr. Size with some more kudos for our finance.
So, congratulations to our Treasurer's Department. That would be Dan Carley, Lori Nelson, and Terry Riesenberg, for earning the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association for the district's 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. This recognition is the highest form of acknowledgement in governmental accounting and financial reporting and reflects our district's strong commitment to transparency, accuracy, and full disclosure in financial management. We're grateful for our continued leadership, diligence, and professionalism of our treasurer's team in upholding the highest standards of fiscal accountability for our community.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Always take a little while to get those, and then we get the certificates in the mail cycle. Last year, we're working on this year.
I was going to say, 2024,
Yes.
we're on down the road. So, no, thank you. That's great, and I know your wall of certificates is going to have to probably clear out some space.
I think they got a medallion to add to
We did.
the last one. So they got a plaque, and now they put a medallion on.
Same space.
they figure we're gonna keep winning, so.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
The whole
the
ball.
bar's been set.
Makes sense.
Okay, well, then next would be the report card presentation with Mrs. Griffin.
Brian stole some of my thunder. No, sorry. No, so this is the presentation that I shared with Brian at our academic committee last month. So 4.5 stars, very proud of our staff and our students for this. We had 4.5 stars last year, but everyone knows to maintain that level and to actually grow even more is pretty hard to do. So we don't take that for granted, we don't take it lightly. And we really, this morning with the video from you guys and kind of talking about DLT, just, this is a big deal, and you guys worked hard and we know that. And I thought a lot what you brought up was, 4 years ago, CKLA, you guys were like hating it, and H&H 2 years ago, you were, it's all these assessments and this, and if you see we've made a steady growth, it's staying consistent and looking at things and changing time and looking at interventions and that, and we're seeing the results. So I think buy-in is much higher than it was a couple years ago. So looking at our overall categories, we were 4 stars in achievement and progress, 5 in graduation and gap closing, and then 3 in early literacy, and this new one, the college career workforce military readiness. I don't have that memorized yet. CCWMR. They would say it real hard, like
The roll so low.
I'll get it. I know it. I'm like, I'm never gonna remember that. This has been report only the past couple years, and this is the first time we've received a ranking for it. Honestly, it's the first time we've received a measure. So it's like they've now told us the rules of the game, and we'll play it better now. But this will always be year in the rear, and I'll tell you, we already know next year's. So it's gonna be better. It's not the best. It will get there. Achievement were 4 stars. So what Ryan said, this 91.7 is the highest in years. I was looking at that same thing as our performance index. Last year it was 90.3, so it went up a little bit. And then this is what changes. So they take this by the average of the top 2% of the district. So it was 109 this year, last year was 108. So as we do better, other districts do better, so the bar does go higher. This was a different screenshot, and I know your guys' was really small. I couldn't get that to get bigger. And I can share this with you if you want to look at the numbers. Actually, this is all on the public facing site. None of this is private, so you can see this in OE or GWW's website. But I did this by grade versus by subject because you can see here kind of some of our accelerated routes, and I think it's interesting to kind of see them go. So in 7th grade is when kiddos start taking 8th grade math. And so you can kind of see this cohort here at 100%. It's awesome. Now, those are always the kids that 100% is great, but they need to be all advanced as well. And so that's always kind of looking at that growth piece there. They move down here in math, or into Algebra 1, 100% again, which is great. But then what's interesting is our math track takes you Algebra 1, Algebra 2 as a 9th grader, so they aren't in this number because Algebra 2 is not in the course, and then they're in this number with geometry. And this is your honors track, and you can kind of see that number there. And so this has definitely been our big focus of here. So this is your honors track, this is kind of your college prep. And this is like your kiddos that are struggling, they're seniors, they're taking it in April, and that's a result. So that has been a big, Holly and I don't know how I was talking to him about it, and that is definitely one of our biggest focuses right now, is just kind of looking at that. I'm working with a couple math team members. Mrs. Borchers, Nancy Borchers, did you have her? She was
I did not.
in the 90s,
Yes.
like I was kind of talking to people with her. She reached out to me a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, in honor of the 100 years. She wanted to kind of give back, and she wants to kind of sponsor some teachers. We haven't really talked actual numbers yet, but I've been working with some people, and geometry was her kind of bread and butter. She was partnerships, working with P&G and Keebler. I mean, it was interesting, all the things she said, like, you did this well? I mean, it was like crazy. So I'm kind of working with her and working with some people to kind of look at that. But overall, this kind of gives you a snapshot, and I like the way this looks at things. Another thing with this geometry, these are kids at the Oaks. We know that that's kind of been a concern of ours as well. So these are all things that we're looking at. Yes, 4 stars is awesome, but we know we have major growth that we can still make, to get closer to that 5 star. This is our PI, so our 83.5. Last year our PI was 83, so it did go up 0.5. I will say though, the span, okay, here's your 91.7. The span though to get to 5 stars is 91%. So we are still a ways away from that. But again, I'm extremely happy with this. Like Brian said, these numbers have all grown. This is a huge improvement for us. These are advanced plus kids. These are kids that are they are accelerated. They have written acceleration plans in place, and they score advanced in their subject areas. It's really hard to do. You have to be gifted. You have to be in an accelerated course, and you have to get advanced plus. The past few years, that's been 0. So we have grown on that, and I think that will continue to grow with the work we're doing in our gifted department. And again, these are diminishing, and this is also huge. Colleen, our principals, all people that help with testing, the fact that we have 0 people that weren't tested is phenomenal. In a district of 2,000 kids, truancy, all the different things, we are making sure we're getting kids here to test, which is great. And then there's, like I said, that 5-star. Looking at progress still, I keep saying it's coming. I think October 22nd, we just got an email from SAS, which oversees EVOS, which is who does all the value-added formulas. We just got saying pull our data out from last year because they're going to start loading stuff in. So hoping soon, this is all that's public facing right now. And basically what this shows you is our growth index and our effect size. So I wrote definitions down because I always get these confused. I know Stephanie's going to be like, nope, that's not right. So the growth index is how confident we are that the growth was significant, was statistically significant, was not caused by any sort of variance. If we are confident in that number. And 4.3 is a pretty confident number. I looked at our history. We know our 21-22 report card, we rocked it because the pandemic, we came back and we saw growth for days. And that was 6.33. That was great, but again, we had a pandemic. They've now added this effect size in there to account for pandemics. So last year...
Just to hit on that, just real quick, when you go down in a pandemic, it's really easy to go back up.
Correct.
So they're trying to say, hey, yeah, you went up a lot, but you went down a lot the year before, so that's not necessarily all that great.
Exactly, yes. So that was, and they've kind of added this in there, because your effect size then measures the actual significance, like the practical importance of it. Like, was it really, was the growth real, or was the improvement minimal? So kind of showing here, we had growth, but it was similar growth of last year. Like the growth was great, but minimally. So that's kind of why we're still in that 4-star bracket. This number has to get to 0.1 for us to get there. Last year we were at 0.4, so we did grow up 1/100 of a point. We need to go up, 5 more there. But just like looking at it, this number just in 22-23 was negative 1.4. So I mean, you see that growth. It's kind of, I like going back to see that because I feel like we've always been 4 stars, but we did go down to 3 stars, and then we've been back up to 4 stars. So this is definitely, so then the colors here, red is our challenges, which is interesting because 6th grade has such high achievement, but the growth isn't there. So it's looking at why is that, and working with that team, and those teachers are fantastic and kind of seeing that. We know 5th grade has always been solid with their growth, and so it's carrying some of those things up. And then looking across the board. So, overall, this is great information. I'm excited to get our actual individual teacher data to look at that with them. And this is what I was just saying. To get to 5 stars, we need to be at 0.1. And right now we're at 0.05. We've got it for this. Our growth index is over 2. But we still have to work on that effect size. Gap closing. I think this is where we have really shown, similar to what you're saying, we're seeing it across all levels of kids, we're seeing it across all subgroups of kids as well. We're not just seeing it in, your non-economically disadvantaged, non-SPED kid. You're seeing it across the board racially, economically disadvantaged, special ed, and all of that. The ones that are circled are the ones we did not earn full points for. Math achievement, English language growth, and math growth. Math, we know 3 points there, 2 points there, just 1 point there. And the gifted one is challenging. The next one has the thing. Gifted, you're either all or none. They don't give you partial credit for this. And it's hard with IB and services because they really ding you on that K2 grade band because we don't do full grade level gifted testing in K1, nor do I think we should. So, but looking at this, we are, let me get to the next one. We are 76.1. To be 5 stars, you just need to be 60%. So So we're 16% over that 5-star realm. So Joe Henderson, they kind of bang their heads, and I'm like, guys, like, we're doing the right thing, we're still good, and I don't want you to I want to focus on the good stuff here too. So kind of looking here, that's our K2 band, we lost 6 points there. All grades, just 2 points there. This is huge. This is how many kids are being served. If you're marked gifted, 100% are being served K2, 98.936, 98.778, and 85.8912. This number will go up. Polly has said that she wants kids to go up, but also a law was just passed saying that if a kid scores advanced or accelerated on a math test, that they have to be in the upper level math course. So it's good, they have to take it now. So
this 85 is the students have in high school a lot more discretion about what level they go in. So if they choose to go into a lower level, then it counts as us not serving them.
correct. If they choose to go to CP, that doesn't. Now Joe gets real creative, and it's like, it's hard as a high school kid. Like, you might want to take heavy here and then not here, and you're passionate. It just, or there's singletons, and you want to be in band, but you can't be. So it's also harder to serve kids. Now Joe gets real creative and will cluster kids. And if you have a cluster, and if she works with a teacher regularly, which she works with them every few weeks and meets with them, then they can count that. So there's a lot of different ways. Again, it's kind of a game, but we're at 5 stars and we're doing great. So I'm also like, guys, I don't want you to worry about these little things.
If we're going to focus on something, and if a parent and child decides to be in a lower level math class because they think that's what's right for them, I would rather not focus on that because we're making the right choices. I'd rather focus on actual performance in other areas where we can actually see real improvement.
Yeah.
We're already getting 5 stars. Everybody seems to be happy with the classes they're taking.
Yeah.
That's not an area where I don't think we should be spending a lot of time on. I agree with you.
Yeah, so it's looking at it now, we can't let it go to the wayside, we have to keep doing what we're doing, but I agree, I mean, the gifted people are also a little competitive, and I'm like, guys, it's we're good. So yeah, so 60%, and we were 76.1, so that's great there. Early literacy, this is an indicator that is challenging because it's a year in the rear, or it's like a couple years, it's like cohorts in the rear, and it's confusing. And I feel like I'm finally starting to wrap my head around it as a high school person. I'm like, these early literacy things are like, ugh. So this first one is easy because this is our proficiency in 3rd grade. I want that to be higher. Like that's something that needs to be higher. So right there, that's that score. This is interesting as promotion to 4th grade. When you take this test, if you don't score at the readiness level, which isn't necessarily proficient, there's a readiness score level, in the past couple of years, parents, since the pandemic, parents are able to exempt you from being held back and you go to 4th grade. Okay, great, like that letter, boom. Now they're saying starting this year, that's why we have 100%, because parents sign the letter and we're good. Now they're saying if you don't have the score, then that exemption will not count to that 100. So there are alternate pathways. They can retake the ELA in June, which we offer. You have to offer so many hours of tutoring, which we've done before. Nothing we've done the past couple of years because of this caveat. You also can take the math test. And I think you can take the math test as much as you want. So I've been talking with their districts. They're like, oh, they take it until they pass it. That just breaks my heart. But we're going to get through that. But I don't think this will be 100 next year. But it should be in the 90s. It's our hope. So that's also like, okay, guys, if this needs to go up, because if that's going to go down, this has really got to go up. So this is the challenging part of the indicator. So improving K3 literacy. So I'm going to do my best. I'm not Kirsty, so Ryan can help me because he heard her explain this. Basically, what this is tracking is it's tracking RIMPs, and it's tracking the fall via dibbles and how many RIMPs are being pulled off. So it's as long as that number goes down. So this is looking 23, 24. So you kind of look, you kind of go down here. So our current report card, the one you just saw, that was 3 stars. We actually increased the RIMP by 1. So they had 68, then when they went to 1st grade, they went to 69.
That's bad.
That's bad. You don't want to go up. Yeah, so they had 8, so it doesn't want to touch them, it does. So they were preschool, kindergarten, there was 80. 68, and they went to 69. So you can see here, positive, and then they went down by 15, they went down by 12. This year, because we already obviously know our fall and we knew when it was here, We don't have a calculator quite yet, but we went down 31 RIMS, 27 RIMS, 9, 4, and 10.
That's huge.
That's gotta be better.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna work with somebody at the state and kind of try to figure out and see if we can figure out where we are and really have some goals for that 3rd grade test and then obviously that 4th grade promotion. Because this is already set in stone, this piece of the indicator. I don't know what it is yet, but.
When we were talking, that's why we were talking about what are some other ways we can get the kids earlier, and that's what generated that preschool conversation. Because a lot of these kids aren't here in preschool and we're getting into kindergarten, we're already behind the 8 ball in some of these categories.
This is how many RIMS we identified of kindergartners.
Yeah, 101,
We only have 120,
130.
131.
What's REM stand for?
So Reading Improvement Monitoring Plan.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So if you don't score what you need to score, you're on this improvement
Yes,
plan.
and so that starts in kindergarten, and it used to go away after 3rd grade.
Okay.
But now, until you score at that level, it's gonna carry on with you until you graduate. So it has started 2 years ago, so we now have RIMS in 5th grade and 6th grade, which is why it's gonna be interesting to start serving title kids, where we've been so heavy in elementary, which we need to be, but we still have to, we have a couple of 5th grade, or a couple 6th grade and a decent amount of 5th grade, but they're coming off. So that is different. Now, this number is high, but it's also like, that's gotta go down. So we will get a big credit.
And in some
on
ways,
this, too.
the one good thing about it, if there can be said to be a good thing about it, is it gives us a ton of opportunities for improvement.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
But
'cause
that's
those
also a
negative
concern,
numbers with something falling off and that's.
yeah. But it's a concern of our preschool curriculum and where they're coming from and being prepared for kindergarten. So, all the things, but hopefully that number will continue to go down.
When 4/5 or more of your kids are coming in kindergarten and not prepared, that's problematic, that's
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we hear about it all the time. I mean, that's main news headlines.
yeah.
Head Start.
How does that comparison
Yeah.
break down from like our preschool kids going into kindergarten?
I asked that too.
That's a good question.
They didn't have that
I
data
don't
yet.
have it, but that's a good one to, I'm gonna write that down, because I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in how many of our kids are in there, and then almost where did the kids go before?
Yeah.
And it would be interesting just to see, because I know we know what that, I know they go to Arches, and I know they go to,
There has to be a difference, and it would be nice to know what the difference is, so that if there is a spot where there's clearly a hole, we can do something about it.
right,
Yeah, I just think we should be pretty confident that what we're doing is better than
Yes.
potentially what others are doing before
Right.
we start making connections.
our issue, I was telling
So I think
them,
we should probably,
yeah.
Well, we know that there's 30 kids who are doing well
Mhm.
relative, so I really hope that those 30 kids are the ones that were in our preschool.
I'm gonna assume they are.
that's too,
Yes.
Because if they're
Now,
not,
yeah,
then we've got another problem.
We did adopt the pre-K CKLA curriculum to go along with that, and we're using Haggerty. The issue now, but 7 to 12 is becoming now an issue thing that you can get out of, is it's not about the quality of your curriculum. So I had to purchase a different curriculum this year to write our lessons with, because they,
Pre-K does its own thing.
pre-K is its own little world, so it's interesting. Graduation, honestly, like they rock it out, 5 stars here, 97.6%. Now this was the class of 2024. We know this year, so we already know next year we'll have 5 stars again, 100%. So that's huge. The reason it's 100% is honestly these, it's your special ed deferrals. They didn't have any, and we've never been 100%. And honestly, that was one of the last things Deb and I were working on, was she said, I have 100%, this makes me a lot really nervous, there's gonna be red flags, we're gonna be 100%. And she was just running reports and making sure we had everything in line. I'm like, if we're 100, we're 100, like, we're not lying. So, that's something cool. And then obviously, for 5 year next to the year, that would be 100, because you can't go down. And then this is our new guy, the CCWMR. And basically what this measures is, it takes your kids and your 4-year graduation cohort. So this would have been the class of 2024. And there was 169 of them, and 121 of them met one of these areas. So you just have to meet one of them. If you meet all 11 of them, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of something that we're working with the counselors on, like looking, they're like, well, this person's missing this. I'm like, but they already have that. I want to make sure they're getting the right credentials and the right certifications, but at the end of the day, like, when we're checking this, so the grad reporting for the 2025 just ended on Friday. And again, this is what we were working on the past few weeks with our counseling department, with Deb, is we were running, so we had our list, and when I pulled it and I did all the things, 27 kids didn't have it. And so we started looked up every kid, and we found 4 or 5 data reporting errors where the assessment wasn't entered correctly. We were able to fix it, and I do believe that's going to put us up over 75. And so I believe we will be 4 stars next year, which will be great. But now that we know that and they kind of can see what these are, we can kind of start tracking that better and getting that.
Didn't we talk about how the kids that were the high performers were hitting it and the lower performers were hitting it? We're really missing it with the middle band of kids because we know what we have to do with the kids that are struggling and we pay a lot of attention to that. The kids at the higher end are taking AP classes, they're doing all that stuff, so they're hitting it naturally.
Yes.
It's the ones in the middle that we're missing.
It's the ones in the middle that are passing your OSTs at the proficient level. They're not getting these high scores, but they're passing, they're fine. And they took an AP course in history because they like history, but they're never going to touch math. And they took a CCP course, and it's okay, but they didn't do 3 and they didn't do 12 credit. So they kind of, had a good experience. And that's, you don't want
through the cracks, they're not
Right.
doing anything wrong.
They're not doing anything wrong. And so it's looking at those kids, and in my opinion, I don't want to change the way we counsel them. I don't want to say, only do this because this is better for us.
Yeah.
I want them to still do what they feel like they need to do. But for our counselors to have the knowledge and the understanding, okay, this kid, okay, so if you don't have this, let's look into some of it. There's going to be other avenues. We have the Rise Up curriculum, which is great, and it's kind of customer service training. It's good training that anyone, honestly, you and I, we have customer service training happening today for our front office staff. That would be a good elective that we can get kids into that would get those points. So there's a lot of different things that we can work on, and honestly, Colleen was like today, oh, we're going to get the, it's one of those things, we know the rules now, we can kind of
That's the
start.
other piece is we didn't know the rules.
Yeah, so.
They gave the score and then said, this is what we graded you on.
Yeah, it was report only the past couple of years, you can look at it and be like, okay, but until you put numbers to it and it,
Well, and I'd argue too that list of things, not that it's not important, but that doesn't, in itself doesn't make somebody absolutely college, career, workforce, military ready.
Right.
And it doesn't mean they're not if they have hit that list of 10 or whatever items. We probably have a lot of middle of the road students who, like you said, didn't go for the honors or the AP stuff and didn't go for some of the readiness things, but are going to go be perfectly happy and productive, right? So this
it's
a little more arbitrary.
To Megan's point, this could have been that kid who gets all A's and B's, passes all his end of course exams, really likes history, so did an AP history class and a CCP history class, and now is in college for history, and didn't really
But
need
didn't
or
hit
want to
any of
do the
these
other
things.
stuff.
Yeah.
And we
And
knew
obviously
exactly
it's
what was
college.
right for that
Yeah,
kid. And then, but they say he's not
So it is
college
that,
career ready.
yeah, it's that small, we're to be in the low 20s of kids that we're going to be looking at to see what's another thing we can do.
So a lot of these things are talking about being ready for a job. So actually having a job while you're in high school doesn't count, but
The Ohio Beach job readiness seal with 250 hours, and so that's a
what does
seal.
that mean?
There's some credentialing you do, and then you work. You have to show pay stubs up to 250
You
hours.
have to have it signed off by 3 people.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's definitely a route
I
that a lot
wonder,
of kids take.
that would be a great route because every kid could benefit from having a job. There's no downside for anybody on that one. So we could try to push that
Yeah.
route and say, hey, have you thought about getting a job over the summer? Have you thought about, whatever?
And a lot of them have it, we just don't ask for the
Yeah,
documentation.
exactly.
Well, it's
And so now that we know,
Kids.
we will.
Now that you know that.
Yeah.
The signatures.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I don't think this is gonna be an issue once now we know. And so it's just, now obviously we found out 2 weeks before grad verification was due for this year. So luckily, with the things we had, we're able to push us up one, but my goal and my hope for them is that should be 5 stars in 2 years.
I
So,
guess the thing that's kind of sticks out to me is that other than enlisted in the military, doesn't say accepted and enrolled in college.
No.
Doesn't say, like you said, got a job. I would argue that one of those two.
Probably what they would say to that is if you're not remediation free ACT, getting into college
Yeah.
is pretty easy.
Yeah.
You'll get in
Take a look.
somewhere.
Right.
So they can't count that or else everyone would qualify, so they're using the remediation-free ACT as the
and they
standard.
just talk about its readiness, it's not what they're doing after the fact,
Right.
it's that
Yeah,
readiness. Where this,
technically, right.
I was on a call and there were districts that were pretty fired up. districts that are, well renowned, and it's like, we did not get, in our community and blah, and it's, well, you didn't know the rules now, and now it's gonna take you a couple years to catch back up, but, I'm happy with it, because now that I understand the rules, I went back to our report only, and again, that's a public thing you can look at, and we have grown every year. So we've gotten better at reporting, we've gotten better at data, we've gotten better at finding opportunities, so that's just gonna keep increasing, which is great, because it's giving kids different opportunities than just the typical things. So I think we'll be in the 75 to 85 next year, and then obviously our ultimate goal is to jump up there for that one. And then looking overall, our chronic absenteeism rate was 19%. Last year it was 22.3%, so that's great that we want that to keep declining. Our one plan, which is tied to our CCIP, which is tied to our grant money, our goal, and you do it every 3 years, so 3 years ago I made it to be chronic absenteeism, and now I feel like I have to change it before I do it again, because we now met it 2 years in a row. They're gonna be like, you can't measure that, but you've now gotten it. And this is how you can kind of see the buildings overall. The middle school got the highest rating at 4.5. I think that's really hard to do.
Well, and that hasn't been our history, so
No.
that's really great.
No, so I mean, that's definitely commended of those teachers and everything they did. And again, kind of looking at things, I mean, you just have a few 3s here, and we already know some of those 3s are going to turn into 4s already, so I don't know, we have a great forecast. I know it's challenging to keep the growth, so I always say it with a grain of salt, and I would say this is not our value, but this is great news to celebrate right now. Next October, I'll let you know.
Well, we hit a peak in our data in 2022, the year after coming back from COVID. We came back harder than almost anybody in the state. We did a really great job, and we beat that year this year for the first time.
Yes.
So I think that's really impressive.
Yeah.
We didn't beat it by a little, we beat it by a fair number. I mean, 90.5 to 91.7 is
That's right.
definitely a big number for us.
Yeah, when I was looking at our gap closing scores, we increased 10 points from this last year. And so I was looking, we were 75.6 in 21-22, our big year. We dropped to 57, went up to 66, and now we're at 76. So it's kind of, I hope, now we're here, we might shift.
And the other thing that I think is really critical is, like in 2022, our peak year prior to this year, we had 4.5 kids, 4.5% of our kids were limited. It's only 4% this year. We only had 0.7% of our kids at Advanced Plus. We had 2.4% of our kids at Advanced Plus this year. So we're seeing that growth across the spectrum,
Yeah.
and it's in categories that are really hard to change. So the fact that we're reaching kids at the extremes shows that these interventions are working.
So kudos to our teachers and our students, they're the ones doing the work. We're just kind of trying to guide them, so.
And kudos to Megan,
Yes.
Absolutely.
because she's our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and she's the one that does all this.
Quarterback.
She's the quarterback. Yeah.
And field toe for
So,
and
and
turf toe.
I keep bragging to everyone like that, because these aren't my numbers, I just got here. But it's awesome to hit 4.5 2 years in a row. And this year, what I say, only 23% of the state scored 4.5 or higher, and only less than 8% scored better than us, 5. Less than 8% scored a 5. So we're in an elite tier. It's something to celebrate.
And I forgot the best news. I can't believe I didn't put the slide in. They passed legislation last year, and that we get a certain percentage of a bonus, like on your actual funding per kid. And we got $105,000 from this report card. Yeah, remind me, what was that number with the kids? Do you remember? It was like an extra $13 per kid.
$13 per child times the enrollment.
Yeah.
Yep, times how many stars?
Yeah. So and we told the DLT that. Let's see if I can find that slide. It's kind of buried. I told the DLT that we found out in July, and it was like, see guys, like, they're like, well, that's a boat. I mean, yeah, like that's showing you like what we're doing is making an impact. So, yeah.
And we just got the first payment on Friday.
Look at that. Yeah.
Is that 1878, is that our official enrollment? this year? Because I know it's about this time of year.
That was last year, wasn't it?
Last
Or was that last year?
Last year.
The
Last year, but we're
24,
pretty
25.
close to that. We might be up a little bit. I think we were in like the 1890s maybe.
We
We're
had a
definitely
We
1800s.
had a big kindergarten, so if anything,
Yeah. But we're definitely below that 2,000 mark, which is, for me, important because it puts you below a threshold of some things with like vendor pricing and things like that,
Yeah.
when people drop below. But then that's funding too, so it's give and take.
the report card, they use numbers, so I'm just trying to be consistent with the numbers. We went from 2095 to, we lost 55 the year after that, 2040. Then we gained 5 the year after that, 2045. Then the year before this year, we lost 125 down to 1920. And then this past year, we lost another 42 at 1878.
Those are those open enrollment classes graduating
Yeah.
and then not picking up kids in the other grade bands.
It's definitely, but it's definitely more than that.
Yeah,
Because
125
that's, in the last 4 years, we've lost 217. That's almost our entire open enrollment.
Yeah.
And we still have about, I think we have like 170 open enrollments still
At least
now.
8 grades.
So we've only lost like maybe 70 people, and we've lost 217. So we're losing a lot more than open enrollment. So this is something to keep our eyes on. I'd be curious if we understood why, and especially because we have more kindergartners now. So like, it's not because we're not getting kids in the door on the front end. So there's got to be something else going on. So that would be nice to,
Like, what's the 8th and
Look
9th
into
grade, like what's that, are we losing kids?
are we losing them and going into high school? I bet we are.
I wonder if it's the lower grades where they weren't replenishing with open enrollment though, because you didn't just lose some, you didn't gain the ones.
No, there's definitely a piece to that, but like if we have 130 in our kindergarten class, we weren't doing more than that in prior years, so we are getting the kids coming in.
But I heard the last couple
Last
kindergarten
couple
classes.
kindergarten.
They were a little smaller,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but not 217.
yeah, so like 20, 40, 60, and then you graduate 20. Yeah, you're looking at a little over 100, not 200, so. yeah.
There's something else going on.
Well, and again, that, like, where's that specific number, like, what time of year, what report, you know, because we
Well, as long as you're using a consistent data set, like,
wouldn't
there,
expect it.
the number of change is really
Because
what
that's gonna be
I'm
taken at the
looking
same
at.
time every year.
Right,
It's
right.
in the report card.
So as long as you're not like cherry picking sources,
Yeah.
as long as they all come from the same source, it should be good.
Your census data.
Yeah.
They gotta use the same methodology.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
It's
think.
what we report in, probably.
So it's just another thing for us to keep track of and just pay attention to, because it's kind of an outlier.
Yeah. We look you up? Yep.
All right, when we get technology switched, we'll get ready, our next.
Great job, Nathan.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was really great.
Good news, too. Our next presentation will be the fiscal year 2026 budget and 3-year forecast, the initial 3-year forecast. So, we'll let the technology team get that swapped. We got to
Perfect.
get that.
Yay, Megan, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, this is our initial, we're a little early. As I've been forewarning, the state moved us up a month. Going forward, it's going to be even earlier. It's going to be in August, which is very challenging. We don't even have a lot of things in place in August with school starting. So it is very highly likely that this is going to change, and we will need to revise and resubmit. But as good as I know today, here's what we have. So revenue, here's our projected revenue throughout the forecast. You can see in years 2022 through 25, we had a little bit of growth, but fairly consistent. State funding, we don't even have our final numbers yet for this year. That I won't know until next month. As far as our breakdown, we're still hanging around 47% local taxpayers. 30% state funding, and 23% are other local revenue, which would be our TIF dollars, things of that nature. We did have a little bit of a bump in 24, or 23, that was the last reappraisal. And then, again, went down a little bit in 24, and part of that was because we had some delinquencies that it was higher in the year before. And also, if you recall, that's when the power plant shut down and we lost that revenue there. So that is rebounding back a little bit. So it's not really growth. It is more or less getting us back to where we were before the plant shut down. On the assumptions for the revenue, projected revenue growth is expected to be less than our historical average. The past 5-year period, revenue increases average 3.3% or $781,000. However, anticipated future revenue is expected to decline, primarily in state revenue and public utilities. We are continuing to very closely, monitor property tax legislation that's ongoing. As you know, the items that the governor vetoed are now moving its way back through, and a couple of them have passed. The others they have until the end of the year to put those back into motion. House Bill 15, which is the energy bill that passed, it lowered the public utility taxation rates, and it exempts some other projects. This, if you look on the main, is the reason for the revenue deduction decline in fiscal year 28. So we're losing approximately $1 million of public utilities. And that's not just the power plant, that's all of our public utilities. And then also we believe that the conversion of Vistra to natural gas, which also projected to be completed in 2028, so this would hit 2029. As everyone understands, our legal opinion has been that the plant will indeed be considered new and that they will receive a 5-year tax exemption. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we'll need to explore ways to stabilize our revenue for that 5-year period, whether that's working directly with them or coming up with something else.
So theoretically, we could ask them for those 5 years. You have an exemption, but maybe we could prepay future taxes to kind of make it level for maybe 10 years or something like that, where we could ask them to pay like half of what they would pay in the second 5 years and the first 5 years, and then just have a steady 10-year amount or something like that.
Or a pilot agreement on something that we can both come to terms with. And it wouldn't just be for us, it would also, this is including Miami Township, and once we get the trustees established, then I think we can kind of start meeting with them to see what a good plan would be. Obviously, we're thrilled that the power plant's remaining open, and we want to be supportive of them, but being one of our largest taxpayers, that would be a lot of burden for us.
Is there an expert or someone we can talk to go into negotiations that could advise us as to what we can reasonably expect to ask for in those discussions?
Definitely. So we can certainly get our attorney involved and try to negotiate something and see if there is any comparison data that we can kind of form ours off of. But
This is in Ohio. This is based on Ohio legislation.
Correct.
So there are going to be other new plants in Ohio.
Correct.
So there are going to be other districts and other municipalities that are affected by
Right.
this. But since this is just an Ohio thing and it's new, there's not going to be anyone that just went through this. So there's no other examples for us to rely on.
right. But it would be similar to, if you recall, all of the business credits that were given. well, you saw an uptake in, pilot agreements between businesses and districts where they're still reaping the tax benefits, but then they're making an agreement to pay those. And that's something that we work with Gary on. Same as like on the valuations, they can, request reductions on that as well. And that just becomes a process where we would, work with our attorney to try to find a suitable arrangement between the two. But I think that, either way we'll be stronger together with the township, because I'm sure that it's going to be significant funding for them as well.
Well, I think too, my opinion's always been if Columbus doesn't want tax revenue from these new plants or whatever, that's their business, but we don't get a chance to vote with that, right? And the impact, even though the numbers are certainly smaller, the impact is a lot bigger for us in the township, or if it happened to be a village or a town or wherever some of these facilities sit. So I feel like, I know in our conversations with our state representative, we did get some, there's language in there that allows us to go do this. Now, to your point, like how and who and where that precedent gets set, I think we're going to need to explore
Right.
that, and we've got a little bit of time, to prepare for that before.
Right, those changes won't come on until 2029.
We've talked about if the plant closed, would the state make up some of the difference? Can we still have that conversation with our representatives about, okay, it's not closing, but if we lose revenue for 5 years, for all intents and purposes, it basically
Yes.
closed?
Yes,
So can we be made, maybe not whole, but can the state also help us out?
Right.
Especially since the state's the one that took the money from us.
and there is language. If you recall last year when the plant closed and we lost the revenue, we worked with the state. And the timing is an issue because it's all about when everything is certified at the Ohio Department of Taxation, and that doesn't happen until May. And if you recall, the plant shutdown was in early spring. So the best information that we had, which, like I said, everything can change, was that the seesaw effect, as our revenue went down, state funding should then compensate. We planned for that, and this is per my conversations with our consultant, as well as conversations with the Department of Education, our financial consultant there. So it wasn't until they certified the numbers in May, our forecast had already been filed, that they came back and said, well, when we reviewed all of your data, you're still making more today than you did in 2017. Obviously, everything is more today than it was in 2017. So because of that, we did not qualify. So they kept it flat.
Now that they've updated the numbers to, what is it, 22 or 23, would we be compared with that instead of 17?
I am not sure how it goes on the public utilities.
Okay.
For all other state funding, it is 22. That's where it's frozen
That's
at.
better than 17.
Right. And while we're talking about state, I just feel that I have to say that the state share is decreased to a historic low. And the average in Ohio is now 67.5% on local tax base. So that's a huge number. And also, just because I love data, in 2023, Ohio was ranked 45 out of 50 states with the lowest state funding. And that was in 2023.
Yeah, we're 7 or 8 in terms of local property taxes.
Compared to 35 in 2002. So I think that says a lot as well. The value that they, again, they keep putting all of these rules that we have to, find a way to pay for, and but they're not, funding us for it. Any other questions on that revenue?
No, I think I did speak with one of the trustees and just said, hey, after the election and we get into next year, I think it's time that we, talk to our experts and get feedback and decide if there's a way to work together to approach this.
Right.
So,
And also, I did reach out to Mike Odioso today while he's up there. I just want to, don't forget about us. And, you know, I was telling him that, you know, the consequence of these changes that are happening. And, you know, he said, let's touch base and keep me posted. And we were going to try for a call this afternoon, but again, they're in session today and tomorrow and hearing testimony. So he didn't get back with me today, but I would like, you know, Tim and I met him briefly, but we didn't really get to discuss anything other than an introduction at the Kiwanis 80th luncheon. But I would really like to, you know, enhance that relationship and get Tim more involved as well. And,
For lunch once after that.
yep, and then get him out here and let him see the great things that we're doing here in the district. So, and we'll be seeing, the power plant is hosting the next CAP luncheon. So I got an email from Joe Lynn that they're looking forward to seeing you and talking to us at that event. So if anyone is wanting to come to that, please let me know. Okay, on expenses, no surprise, 76%, 76 cents of every dollar spent on our staffing. And then that is salaries and benefits. Purchase services is followed close behind at 17%, and that is mostly additional staffing. And then all other expenditures is 7%, and that's our capital, debt payments, supplies, etc. We only, other than conservative increases to meet inflation, we don't really, and then negotiated agreements, we don't have anything new in here. It's everything from the May forecast updated with the new percents for the last 2 years, this year and next year for the negotiated agreements. Expenditure, so the expenditure growth does continue to outpace our revenue, with the largest categories being obviously salaries, benefits, and purchase services. Salary increases are based on current staffing levels aligned with the negotiated agreements. And there's no base increase included beyond fiscal year 2027, which is the last year of the current contract. Most benefit costs increase, they align with the percentage of the salaries, with the exception of health insurance, for which we have a conservative increase projected. Purchase services, we're steadily seeing an increase here, and that is primarily in staffing, mostly aides, and also our custodial staff, our landscaping staff, our technology staff. Those are all items, and those take up a lot of the special ed services. And what's also included in that purchase service line are the outplacements for our special ed students, any of the providers for their services, and you know, we could give you a multitude of examples on every facet is just increasing so much in prices. And last but not least is we're seeing about a 15% increase in our utility costs. So, and that's, again, part of this House Bill 15 legislation that took place in the summer. The district also will be seeing a increase in capital needs, which will be discussed in further detail by Mr. Smiley at our next meeting. It's essential that the Board of Education adopts the capital plan, and we align that with our strategic plan, because there are going to be a lot more eyes on it. I don't know how to say it, but like previously when we would do our tax budget every year, when we would send things to the county commission, now we have to justify everything that we're doing. And what the law that passed yesterday through the House, it's now in the Senate, and it's very likely that it's going to go through. The Budget Commission can reduce our inside millage if we don't have a plan. And the more items that we have that are board approved, such as the forecast, the capital plan, the strategic plan, with what our plans are, the stronger position we have for that not to happen. Let's see. Also on that,
The commission has 3 people on it, right?
It
Isn't the
does.
county prosecutor one of them?
yes, but they can recuse themselves, and in lieu of that, a county commissioner would be placed on that.
And who are the other ones?
It is the auditor and I believe another commissioner.
It's a mildly political statement, but we're in a deep blue county at this point. They're not gonna cut us back. I
Right.
can't imagine that happening.
I haven't heard anything locally. I did hear on the webinar I was on yesterday, a school district, and I had not heard of this school district, but they were saying that they received notification from their budget commission that they were looking to reduce theirs. So even though we're still very early in all of this, I think things are starting to happen. So we just need to be very aware.
If we were in Butler or Warren County, I'd be concerned about that. In Hamilton County, I think it's a completely different story.
Right.
I also don't feel like our numbers are.
I wouldn't justify
If-
it.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone looked at our finances, they could see the trajectory.
That's the
We've
spending.
been on, yeah, for a long
Right.
time, right? And if
Right.
it were not for ESSER, I know we've said, oh, we're gonna need a levy, we're gonna, like I said, we've said that for years and we've never had to, but I think ESSER definitely was a life preserver, for a 3 or 4 year window there, that we would be much closer to that point now, if it were not for that. So, yeah, I would vehemently protest anyone telling us that we need to reduce our, in a time where, clearly there's other things. Again, we just spent time talking about the public utilities. There are some districts that's not even a line item in the revenue, right? And in our
Correct.
case, it is a big impact. So to sit and say, oh, well, it's like, well, they would have to take everything into consideration, including that. So,
I think that the districts that have to worry about this provision are really the ones that are at the 20 mil floor and they're just getting extra revenue every year. And then they have to justify needing that extra revenue that they didn't have the year before. I
Correct.
think it's really meant for that situation.
And they are seeing reductions. So,
and I think if I saw it right, if I was looking at the right numbers in your 5-year forecast, even out of 2030, we're not quite at the 20 mil floor, if that's
No.
even a thing by the time we get to it.
yeah.
Talk.
I don't know what it'll be the next, budget cycle.
Yeah.
But we were
We have the
getting
housing
so
being
close.
built. We have the housing being built. We should be there in the next few years between Deer Run, the stuff that's going, those Miranda homes going in, the condos in North Bend. It would be shocking if we weren't there in the next
Right,
few years.
and we do, in the large official packet, this one, everyone has, this does have those broken down, all the millage rates. And if that fell to be true, we would be at 20.4, I believe, in 2030.
And again, we don't know if the 20 mil floor is even going to be a thing at that point.
Right.
It's all speculative, but I saw that, again, in our forecast, technically it's 3 years, not 5, but it looked like even in the 5th year, we were not quite
Right.
there yet.
What assumptions did you
Legislation that's
use?
being proposed,
I'm sorry?
They think about half of those on the 20 mil floor would be knocked off the floor
Mhm.
because of some of the new legislation.
Yeah, because you can't use emergency millage and a couple
Right.
other things, but we didn't have any of those things.
We don't.
So,
There's some limits on inside
It's on
millage.
page 6, that's where we get down to 2029.
so in 2029, how much, did you project any additional property being built or anything like that?
I have conservative increases, yes, and we are having an update. We had our reappraisal in '23, and we will have another update next year. So,
You see a pretty substantial increase in 26 and 29.
Those are the revaluations.
Revaluation.
unfortunately, though, we don't really know what they are until
Don't know.
we get the valuations.
They could go down.
Right.
I mean, the nightmare scenario is you do get that 50 million that you need to get to the floor in construction, but then the valuations could go down by 10% and you'd be right back where we are. So,
Yes.
there's a lot of variables.
So,
There is this hypothetical scenario where, like, if we could get there, I mean, if you look, our expenditures are not astronomical. They're increasing kind of, they were actually lower than inflation.
Yeah.
There's a scenario where if we did get to that floor, we might not have to go ask for millage because that continual
Right.
increase would be just enough to cover our increase, and we just kind of maintain
right.
this even.
Well, that's kind of where we're at. We're at a race to get to the 20-month floor before we need to go up for a levy. And if we can
Right.
get there and we can get natural increases, then we don't need to ask for it. I mean, Oak Hills right now is telling their people, hey, we did a great job for staying off the ballot for the last 20 years. You haven't done a great job. You've been below the 20-month floor. You've been getting increases the whole time.
Right.
Your people have been paying, you've been getting automatic levies every year. So you haven't done anything.
Right.
So, it's unfortunate that the public doesn't understand these things because we've had to really be fiscally responsible because we haven't been at the 20-month floor.
Right. And as a board, you've made a lot of very smart and hard decisions. We elected last year to not replace some retirements. We did not renew some of our purchase service. And all of that's factored in here. So, we're doing the right things. It's just that, everything is, just on the upward. And, even the things that we're doing, I think we need to continue making those choices when possible, so that we don't have to, wait. If we wait, and then it could be worse. So, like I said, I really appreciate this board, and I feel like you're very fiscally conservative, and I feel that we're always trying to work as good stewards of our taxpayer dollars.
Well, in the scenario where, say, we don't get to the floor, or the rules change yet again in 2 years, whatever the scenario is, the good story here is, if we continue to do what we've been doing, then it's not as if and we do need to go ask for increased millage. It's not going to be it should not be this huge huge mill number. It should be something that's manageable. It's certainly something we can defend and show why. But that's always been my goal. Is like when the time comes when we do have to make the ask, that it's conservative.
Right.
Because it's been a minute since we have. So.
And I have contacted the county to ask them if they had the values yet, the valuations for this year, and they told me they won't have them to us until December. So, cash balance. So we, again, since we're in deficit spending, we've been in deficit spending for the last 2 years. Our cash balance has been deteriorating. We do have deficit in year 4, which is 2029 and 2030. But again, a lot can happen between now and then. But the other thing to be mindful of is that we could fall into the fiscal caution if our cash balance was less than 6 months revenue for a calendar year, or if the decline in cash balance is 5 to 10% over a 3-year period. So, and at that point, we would receive a letter from the state. But hopefully we won't get there. Because again, these numbers are, a lot of them are estimates because we don't have all of our numbers yet. I know we like to talk about true days cash. So 2028, we get down to 36, assuming nothing changes with what is here. As you remember, last year we did pass a cash balance policy. So if at any time our cash balance falls down to that number, you would be required to take action and do something at that point. So that's where we stand today. And then legislation, you know, again, every day it's emails. Tim has been sharing a lot with you on the weekly updates. We're just overwhelmed and inundated every single day with, it's something new. So, you know, we're doing our part. We're mindful of this ongoing legislation and keeping our ears for anything that's going to affect us. But, you know, it seems that the intention here is to repeal property taxes. And again, that's a little bit scary. That would include our inside millage. House Bill 309, again, I talked about that. That does give the Budget Commission authority to reduce our tax revenue as they deem necessary. So either if they don't agree with our expenditures that we are projecting, or if they think we have too much cash balance, those are just some of the reasons that they've given. And I just, you know, have to go back because I feel like a lot of the things that we're dealing with today are coming from the state. Instead of fully funding and updating data costs to properly fund the fair school funding, the state's been increasingly reducing the public resources, shifting the burden to local residential and farmers. Along with the recent historically high property tax reappraisals, it's created this condition that we're in today. So they like to point the fingers at schools, and I would like to point the fingers back to them because they took away our TPP. They are reducing our public utilities. They're reducing our, you know, what our local taxpayers have voted for. And, you know, they're really taking away some of our local control and your control. And, you know, obviously, the abolishment of any one tax or revenue source only creates an over-reliance on everything else. So I understand reform is needed. Turn on the television, you hear it, people are upset, their taxes are too high. Schools are getting a lot of the blame for that, which I don't think is fair. You know, and I understand seniors, families, but schools also need stable funding. And it's not fun for us to constantly, you know, try to plan, you know, when you have, you know, 2,000 children that we're responsible for every day, and we want to provide the best education. And we have staff members that are depending on us. And, you know, all of these roller coaster up and down changes that are being made, I don't really know that, what the thought process is on that. So I do share those opinions, and I would encourage anyone to share those opinions with our local legislators that, you know, yes, I agree, we do need tax reform, but not at the expense of school districts. And it's not just schools, it's other, it, you know, could be police and fire, it could be libraries. It's not just school districts, although we're the biggest chunk of that, I believe.
We're also the one thing that the Constitution requires our state to provide as a public school system.
The library can just build fewer libraries
Right.
or buy
Right.
less books. We don't have that option. We can't just educate less children.
Right.
Right. So
Um,
I think rightfully so, we tend to be the biggest local property tax
Right.
recipient. But I think that's because for 200 years, that's how this system has evolved.
Right,
And if it's too much property tax, then we have to say, to your point,
right,
then it needs to be another source.
right. And
So it is tough.
they've done that, but then they take it away. TPP reimbursements, they took that away. And then, business credits, they reduced the amount of tax that the businesses have to pay. And all of these things that they're making policy for is great for economic development for the businesses. It's great for the power plant. It's great. I'm happy, thrilled to have the businesses. But it can't be at our expense. We're also in the business of educating kids. And,
Something that we should probably consider is, working for the federal government, we've had kind of a crazy year too. And so one of the things that I'm constantly looking at is, there's so many things that are outside of our control. Obviously, we should advocate for ourselves with our representatives and try to get, those changes that we think are beneficial. But I think we also then have to look at our own operations and say, and we do, I'm not saying we don't do this, but if we've lost 217 kids in the last 4 years, how do we restructure our school to be leaner and meaner along with our size? And we've done some of that, but I think there's some more that we could do in the future. I would like for us to focus on what are those things that we can save money on and see some savings really quickly so that in the next 4 years, this forecast looks better than what it is on paper
Right.
using the assumptions now. And that's something that we do have power over and we can do. And I think that's really got to be our focus because we know tough times are ahead one way or another.
Right.
So let's prepare the best we can and put ourselves in the best position for that.
right,
And I feel like that's stuff we can start now,
Yeah.
while we're trying to figure out what this impact is for any new power plant, the power plant conversion. What does that mean and how do we go negotiate that? And then guess what? In 18 months or so, there's going to be another biennial budget going on. What does that, but again, to your point, here's things we can do now. Here's things that we can try to position and be ready for and get a better understanding of. And then, a year from now, 2 years from now, we see, hopefully, like you said, a forecast that pushes that out a couple more years, pushes that out.
And we've been successful with that over the last, 5 or 10
Yeah.
years. And we just got to keep doing it. And the numbers that we have in our classrooms are going down and down and down. And we've got to reflect that. And we've got to figure out what that means.
and I don't want to keep harping on legislation, but, so the two big ones right now are the House Bill 336, which is readjusting inside millage to limit and cap our growth. That passed yesterday and is moving now in the Senate. And also House Bill 186 passed the House, it's now in the Senate. This one's a little scary also. It allows retro adjustments of taxes. So there's testimony on this tomorrow, and I don't know how they would do that after they've already certified the values, but that's another one that
What would be the basis for doing it?
to give reductions.
Like, who would determine that and what would it be based on? Do we know?
I don't.
I think it was the local, what's the budget?
Oh, the committee would have the-
That could look and say this district or this entity, because it isn't, I don't think it's just public schools, is overburdening, has too much of a cash balance, needs to, and they could retroactively go back now.
Hopefully, being in this county, we don't have to worry.
Well, I think too, I keep looking at our numbers going, I don't know that anyone would look at us and say that we're,
Right,
yeah.
I agree. And then another on the radar, this isn't as hot as the others, but the taxpayer trilogy is what they're calling it. It's in the House Ways and Means Committee right now, but it's gaining traction, which is 420, 421, and 422. 420 eliminates continuing levies, so no more of those. 421, this is interesting, voters can put a measure on the ballot to reduce our millage, our inside millage. And 422, my favorite, if you know anything about the school climate levies, 422 raises the threshold approval for levies. For any 1 to 2 mill levy, you would now require a 60% approval rate, and anything over 2 mills is a 66%
You never
approval
pass
rate.
another levy again.
So, just some food for thought.
I wanted to.
No,
You never pass
no,
that.
you would never pass that. You would have to say, we're gonna close the school, or if we don't get these 2 mills, and you might get some people to vote for that to get to 60, but that would be stretching it.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to make a lot of the cut threads and
Yeah.
cut it down to, we're going to supply your child math, reading,
You're gonna get take-home packets.
literally the bare necessity
Yeah.
of what is required out of it. Everything else is gonna have to go before you pass.
There would be a revolt long before that would happen,
Right.
so.
So,
Okay, to do that with all the requirements.
but just very interesting. And tomorrow there could be another new one.
They legislature out of any options.
The state could
You
take
said
over
that's
every
the
district.
taxpayer trilogy?
That's what they call it, the taxpayer trilogy. Have you heard that one, Bassett?
No, but I've heard of the movie called Trilogy of Terror, and that sounds
Yeah.
a lot like that. That's where I want to go with that.
So,
Trilogy of Terror.
but very interesting.
No, wasn't even going there.
And then the last item that, you know, we would want to think about with all of this would be what effect that would have on our credit rating. Because they take into consideration our stable revenue. If they start playing and, you know, well, they've already started discussions, but if they reduce our millage, if they take away our guaranteed money that we use and we depend on, that could very much, you know, cause us to be in a bad situation. So, because the property tax is the foundational number one thing that they're looking at.
Well, districts like ours will have to switch to like income taxes and other forms of revenue, because that would be the
Right.
only other choice, and it would be awful, but, you know, that would be the only other choice.
If that passed. So,
Can we go back to the report card?
Yeah. I
yes,
like that discussion a lot better.
there's more fun.
I always, you know, love giving the information, but it's a challenging time to be a school district leader or a treasurer. Lot going on. So, any other questions?
I think that will take us, that completes our presentations. That will take us to the superintendent's report with Mr. Size.
Okay, I'd like to block A through M if I could. First personnel, resignation letter from Jamie Roller, effective September 12th. Resignation letter from Mark Hume, effective September 30th. And resignation letter from Nicole Ash, effective October 10th. Lang Herman to serve as a resident mentor, $1,000 per, I think I should say mentee, starting 25-26 school year. That's just as needed. We recommend revised guaranteed hours for John Fink, bus driver. We have a long daily amount of hours on the last approval, was 6.5. F, approve the following classified staff members up to 6 hours to participate in beyond expectations customer service training outside their working hours during the 25-26 school year. That's Amy Reeves. G, limited 1-year non-teaching contract for the following: a title tutor effective October 15th, Angie Combs. She left us in July and she missed us so bad because we're so awesome that she's coming back. H, approval for Hope Austin and Renee Randall, mentor teachers, to receive science and reading training stipends provided by UC. Operational, I, approval of Three Rivers local school board policies included in the board packet. And then I know I've been updating you the last 2 or 3 weeks on those. J, recommend the board adopt the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce Special Education Model Policies and Procedures as the official special education policies and procedures for Three Rivers Local School District effective immediately. We do that annually. K, approval of the revised administrative handbook included in the board packet. And athletics, L, proposal for an overnight student trip for varsity cheer students in grades 12 to attend the All-American Cheer at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, Florida, departing December 12th and returning January 1st, included in the board packet. M, athletic supplemental contract for individuals as listed for the 25-26 school year. And that's it.
So the field trip is just for the senior trip? Nothing? I didn't see that in the application. I had questions on the policies. I know there was a lot, and I know we're trying to, instead of doing 3 or 4 at a time, we're taking in. I mean, I read through that whole spreadsheet. It looks like most of this is new legislation that's been enacted in the last, we'll say, 6 months. Just getting our policies in line with those. Is there anything, in your opinion or perspective, that's like a critical change or notable change that's worth discussing? Just, if not, that's okay too. I just was,
Like you said, a lot of it was updates to OAC due to new legislation. We've actually been waiting on this pretty much all summer. I'm really shocked we got it so late from OSBA. I thought we'd be approving these in September. It just took a while to get the PDQs from OSBA. But they are standard. As you guys know, on the spreadsheet, there's some that need customized. That just because of the size of districts and personnel, we have to customize a few of them. Otherwise, they're all standard for all public school districts, the legislation changes. And some of it we've known for a while, release time for religious instruction.
Right.
A lot of it we've talked about. We're just now getting them adopted.
is there any other questions for?
Yeah, just to clarify for item L, the funding for this is coming from their either fundraiser or something like that. I think it would be helpful if for future, if we could try to provide that on the agenda item.
We have in the past.
I know that we have to obviously approve it as a board because our students are going somewhere overnight and it is a school trip. But if we could try to just add some transparency in funding, because we have done it in the past, and I worry if we're not consistent with it, that it appears that the ones that aren't listed, the funding that we are paying for. So just for consistency purposes, if you could just put that right on the agenda.
It would also
However you
eliminate
word
questions after the fact too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good idea. I made a note.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Make a motion then to approve items A through M as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve items A through M of the superintendent's report.
I'll second.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Stafford,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
All right, that takes us to the treasurer's report.
Okay.
That's what she does.
I was gonna say,
I was
not that
gonna
you
say-
haven't presented enough numbers, but we can talk
We're a
about the
quarter
specifics
through.
of this month. Yeah.
It just always amazes me how quickly this school year goes. So, not a lot to talk about on this, but we are, right now, we are in the plus 1.6 million. But again, we're in the rich phase. Now we won't have any more revenue, big revenue until January. And then we'll start getting real estate again, that'll go back up. We didn't receive it in time for the 9:30 report, but I did want to let you know that the first TIF payment came in, because if you look at the line.
That's our negative 2 million.
2 million.
That's what I want.
It's actually, the first payment was $2,041,340. So,
So that's actually really close to,
it's higher than the last, so for instance, last year for the first payment, we get it in the fall and the spring. Last year, the first payment was $1,949,087.57. So it went up 90,000 approximately. So we're at 2,041,340.59. And then last year we rounded out at 4.194. So that's coming from Miami Township. Cleves, we did get theirs, and that was really low, which I'm researching why. Last year, again, we were playing catch up on some of those. But the second payment for the year was $15,000, and our first payment for this year was only $786. So I'm not sure what that decrease is.
Isn't it supposed to be like 50,000 a year?
Last year it was $50,956.
That's what I thought.
Year before that, when we were playing catch up, it was $96,954.
Something's wrong.
So 96, $786, yes. So, again,
It's like leaving a tip as a penny.
I'm researching that. The problem with those is it's just really hard to get the information. So I have, there's actually a service, but again, I don't feel that it would be beneficial to pay someone to do it.
We should have a conversation first and see if we
But-
can get the information.
But they actually do a whole thing and they monitor them very heavily. And they actually do the calculations, invoice the township, and get all of that back. If you remember, last time we had to get Gary Stadronsky involved, and he had to request from them in order to get the payments. And then they said, no, we don't owe you that, if you recall. And we had to kind of go back and forth.
Well, in the conversation, can we also talk to them that if this continues to be a problem, we're going to have to ask for legal fees, which we didn't do last time.
We did not.
But if this continues and they can't get this straight, at some point, the school district can't keep paying to make up for the fact that they can't calculate
Right.
the tip amount. Right, right,
So,
yeah, that's got to be fixed.
but other than that, our, public utilities, you can see that's up 207,000. Now that would not be, that would be an increase. That is not from the shutdown. That would have happened in the spring.
is the 600,000 that's rolled back to Homestead, is that just that we're waiting for the state?
I just got that earlier the end of last week.
Okay. But that was coming from the state, so
Right.
there's a couple things here, other receipts from the
Right.
state, not just the.
Right, a lot of that is timing.
Yeah.
And we did get, we are in line with where we were last year on that rollback in Homestead. We should be really, really close on that. That's another thing though, on new levies, they're taking that away too. I forgot to mention that.
So I guess when all these numbers add up, and no disrespect to our forecast, but we just talked about it at length, about how it's trying to get a crystal ball. This to me is more like what's really happening here and now. Our total revenue should be more of almost a zero or a slight, maybe
Right.
decrease just when the numbers all pan out. But right now I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, revenues are down 5.5%, expenses are up 9.2. Revenue should be more at even, perhaps even a little bit of an increase.
Correct.
And I know that's how your forecast is projecting.
Right.
But, we've talked about
and
it, it's
again,
1 month to the next with this.
When we close, it's whatever the timing is
Yeah.
for that period. And then, like I said, on the TIF money that came in and the rollback in Homestead, those are two big ticket items that are, that make a huge impact. On the expense side, I just want to say that that is one pay of the new year for teachers, so just one for September. Everything else is, again, we are seeing increases, but these are things that we've been planning and forecasting for.
The big increases, not necessarily number-wise, but percentage-wise, are the supplies and purchases, but you had some
Right.
clarification in there.
Right, on the supplies, that's just a timing issue. We had bought some computers and we bought some textbook things at the beginning of the year that, again, we hit it early, but then it'll go down. And then on capital, those are items that, again, the servers that we replaced, those we paid half of those in last fiscal year, and this is the other half. So we're, that's the same number. I think we're a little bit higher, but that number is holding pretty consistent. And then transfers, we normally we do the 110 this year. Again, we did the extra that was approved back in July. And if you notice too, I did not tell you on the forecast, but if you look at the forecast, when we're at the negative cash, there's no transfer. So those were zeros in those years. But overall, it's where we intended to be.
Yeah, I think if you just looked at this first blush, you'd be like, oh, but, there's no doubt where the deficit's been, but our revenues are not, next month's report will reflect something a
Right.
little more on target.
Right.
The expenses will start to level.
And then our expenses will go back up because all of our debt payments happen in November.
Okay.
So,
Gotta pay for this place.
yes. So, that's about it. Is there any other questions on the monthly financials?
No questions? Then I'll move that we accept the treasurer's report, items A and B as presented.
I'll second.
Dr. Stafford?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
All right, that takes us to a board vice president's report with Mr. McDonald.
I'd like to recommend that we accept the following donations to the Three Rivers Local School District. $500 from the VFW Post 6428 for student lunches. $100 from the Charles and Pamela Peak for the Senior Girls Retreat. Also $100 from the Charles and Pamela Peak for Jacket Cares. $100 from the secretarial staff for naming rights to auditorium seat D115 to this 070 account. The value of about $150 for CPR credentialing of 2 staff members by Steve Ober, sponsored by Mount St. Joe. And then approximate value of $780 for band instruments for the music department from Keith Hafer. And I think I made the motion for that.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Stafford?
Yes.
So shout out and say thanks to my mom, Charlie. Thank you. If they're watching. And thank you to everyone for their generous donations. If there's, do we have any announcements? Any announcements for the good of the board? Okay, hearing none and seeing no one from the public, I will assume we do not have any items for hearing from the public. Any other either new business or topics anyone wants to bring
I
up?
just have one really uncomfortable thing I wanted to mention, and it's because I've been approached by multiple people on this issue, and because it involves the school. Normally, things on Facebook I try to ignore, and I really hate to bring up anything, but there was a post out there about our Friday night football game and the fireworks, the event, which was a super positive event, and I think it went really well, and heard so many good things about it. But unfortunately, there was a post out there that the trustees that participated in. One of the sitting trustees shared the post, and a couple others commented. And it was asking the candidates who all thought it was important to show up and support our wonderful school, and listed the 3 trustees. And then it said, can any of you 3 please let us know if you were there in support of our schools? And unfortunately, I think this creates a situation where it's like a litmus test for whether you're tailored enough, and I don't appreciate that. I don't like our school being used that way, and to take a really positive event that I think everybody felt really good about, and to turn it into a negative that divides our community is really not called for. And I'm just disappointed because when adults talk like that, I'm afraid it's going to filter into our school, and our children are going to be behaving like that. My kid didn't go to the football game because she has a job and she had to work. And I don't want anybody bullying her in school because she didn't go to the game and telling her that she's not tailored enough because she didn't go to a football game. And if the adults are going to behave like this, then what do you think our kids are going to do? And so this is just me representing myself. I'm not talking on behalf of the board. I'm not talking on behalf of anybody else. But I don't appreciate this stuff in the public. And I would just ask our trustees and the people who are running for office to do better. I think there's been a lot of childish behavior. I think that can apply to everyone. And I think it needs to stop. And so I just need to express that because I don't like our school district being used in a political purpose like this. I just would ask everybody to just cut it out and do better. So I just had to say that. Sorry.
Any other comments? Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sorry.
No, we kind of make it a rule that we don't campaign, at school functions. That's definitely
I think, I don't think we've publicly talked about it, but just the loss of Deb Fox, we'd be remiss not to honor her and thank her for her years of service and everything she's done for our district. And we did a nice little moment of silence for her today, and just a lot of people are hurting, and it's a big gap that is going to be challenging to fill. So I know Tim's been working on a job description. We'll probably get that going in the next week or so. But HCC is being amazing, helping us do so much. David Downs and his team and Kimmy Little. So a big thank you to them because I put an email in and I'm getting a response within 3 minutes, 4 minutes of getting things done. And Colleen stepped up, and Joe. There's a lot of people who just kind of stepped up to help us. So it's what Three Rivers people do, but it's still hard to come with that.
It is, and thank you, Megan. I feel like as a board, we may want to huddle and think about other tributes we can do, but it is, like I said, this is our first meeting since that event, and I do feel like you're right. I mean, we always talk about the Three Rivers family, but I mean, especially you all in the central office, you guys work together so closely. It is like losing family, and she was with the district for over 30 years. Like I said, replacing her, when I talked to her family at the visitation, I'm like, replacing her is just kind of like, that's not going to happen. So we'll just do our best to try to find someone to pick up the mantle and go from there. But certainly condolences to the family and all of her friends and our loved ones, and certainly to everyone in the district from the board. Definitely, it's a loss. I mean, we're not, like we said, we're not a big school district, so everybody plays an important role. And I think we mentioned with the test scores and things like that, it's great, and this or state report card, and I believe in measuring, but that is only just one of many ways that I think our staff and our faculty and our administration do step up and do a great job on behalf of our students and our community. So that's just one of the many signs. So and Deb played a really big role in that, right? I mean, I think if we were to get an audit of our numbers and all the EAMS data and all the things we share with the state, she'd be getting the certificate too, right? I mean, it's like, I don't think people who aren't in the know understand how complicated, just how important that role is. So,
Agreed.
for sure, a loss, and definitely someone that will, certainly remember and miss.
I know this is a stupid point, but every time I was at the central office, I can't even think of a time that she wasn't sitting at her desk working. She was one of those people that she was constantly doing the job. You never had to worry about anything she did. She was just amazing. And it's hard to, like you say, you can't replace that kind of dedication. She was a wonderful person. She was so kind to everybody.
Yeah.
She loved this district and just very proud of everything she does.
Well, if there are no other announcements or information, then I think, do we have any to go into executive session? Hopefully we do. So I will go ahead and adjourn here at 7:50.